Hey guys, Level Cap here, and today we've got some footage of the new C-Class mini airship. This is completely player controlled, spawns in the new Zeebrugge map, and it's kind of cool. I like it. The gun seats are actually quite effective in it. I need to practice a bit more. It is vulnerable, very much so, to just about any sort of anti-aircraft ground fire or large cannon ground fire. As you can see, it didn't really last very long in this clip. It carries bombs, has a front-mounted cannon on the underside, a top-mounted cannon to help protect from aircraft, and also a rear gun emplacement. I haven't played in all the different gun emplacements, but I can say it is really cool to watch it fly around the map and even fight against it in an aircraft. Its biggest weakness for sure is the fact that it's slow-moving and a huge target and really doesn't have that many hit points at the end of the day, so it goes down pretty quick. You can, however, bail out of it over key objectives, so it's not necessarily a total loss, but I have a feeling that the destroyer in its current state is probably going to be a little bit more effective. Then again, this ship does have a very good field of view from up in the air. You can raise and lower its flight ceiling, although I'm not really sure how to do that with its default controls. I got to play around with it more. Sadly, DICE shut down the test server before I was able to experiment anymore. Blowing up a patrol boat with an airship cannon is very rewarding though, I will say. Also, when you spawn in the airship, you have the option of either selecting a destroyer or an airship. So it's not like each team gets one of each. You have to choose one or the other, depending on what makes the most sense for the current situation or which one you like to drive more. Now, in terms of the Zeebrugge map, it is cool looking. It's obviously in its white box phase, which means that people are going to be easier to spot depending on what the end textures look like. But it's enough to sort of get a feel for what the map is going to play out like. And for the most part, it looks and feels like what I was expecting based on the initial concept art of the Zeebrugge raid. It's a very, very long and narrow ship port. And that means that it could play out in a very long linear game fashion, but we have a lot of boats and vehicles to flank around behind. So infantry are going to be relegated to running one direction or the other, but if you want to play some cool little flanking tactics, you'll have to get into a boat or an airship. I like the concept of the map. I, again, didn't have enough time to really test it out and give any sort of in-depth feedback, but visually and conceptually, I'm on board with it. We'll just have to see if the gameplay can be refined a bit more. Hopefully, DICE will do some more test sessions with it. Currently, though, they're going to be testing out operations on the two fully textured maps that they've been playing around with on CTE, so hopefully I can test that out today. They haven't given us a testing time on it, but if I stream and it's available, you guys can pop on over to the stream and check it out. Also being tested are the Aura Specializations. DICE has posted on the CTE Reddit that they've basically heard the feedback from the negative response to the Aura Specializations. For those of you who don't know, the new Aura Specializations that are coming out in this DLC are basically passive auras that you can equip on your character that'll do things like replenish ammo or heal nearby enemies, and you don't have to actually do anything. You don't have to throw down med kits, you don't have to throw out ammo packs or anything like that. This is sort of a way to get around the idea of like being around a medic or support class that's oblivious to you needing ammo or health. I think Hardline had a much better solution to this, allowing you to like run up to a support class and take one single magazine of ammo off of them if they're oblivious to you, and that would sort of keep you in the game. But the aura system seems weird. Battlefield doesn't feel like it's a game that should be based around auras, imaginary circumferences around your character that allow people nearby to like gain all these weird benefits. I know there are these mechanics in some ways here and there, but ultimately adding specializations to the game that have these abilities, I just don't like the whole concept of it. Whether or not it is balanced and whatnot in the game world, I just think conceptually this is a bad move for Battlefield. And despite the almost unanimous and overwhelming negative response to the testing of these new specializations in-game, DICE has shown once again that they probably will just keep them in-game regardless, because once a feature has been implemented in a game, the most they can do is really just tweak it a little. I don't think they really have the dev time or the production schedule to allow them to make big, grandiose, sweeping changes. So since this is one of the features that they're advertising with this DLC, it's gonna come out for the DLC, whether or not we wanted it. And this definitely isn't just the Battlefield 1 aspect of the design. Take a look at Battlefield 4. China Rising added the UCAV. Now we have to deal with the UCAV on all the base maps of the game and UCAV spam. That at one point was one of the biggest aggravating things in Battlefield 4, and it made me not want to play the game anymore. This was one of those sort of design requirements. We're coming out with new DLC, so we have to have X, Y, and Z was a bunch of new gadgets, and one of them was the UCAV, which certainly has not added to the gameplay experience, but it's just one of those things that you got to plug in there because, hey, guess what? AAA DLC development requirements. And so hopefully DICE can try and avoid too much of that with Battlefield 1, but the Aura Specializations I definitely am lumping into that category of required additions to the game that ultimately detract from the enjoyment of the gameplay. The sooner DICE can break themselves away from the formulaic AAA production pipeline, the better their games will be at the end of the day. I would be much happier with less content from a DLC if the content itself was overall better, well thought out, and really had the best interests of gameplay and player enjoyment at heart. Now, on the positive side of things, the next big patch for this game, which is coming out with the DLC in the very, very near future, is coming with the weapons update. This is going to be one of the biggest gameplay changes to gunplay and gun balance since the game has launched. It's effectively going to change the time to kill for many weapons overall. It's going to make just about every gun in the game a bit better, faster TTK on a lot of things like machine guns and stuff in close range. Medic DMRs are going to have better accuracy at further ranges. A lot of the SMGs for the assault are going to have better damage, so this is going to make them more competitive with the Automatico, so the Automatico isn't just the clear winner. And because the LMGs are getting higher base damage in close quarters, they'll be a little bit more competitive against the SMGs. Basically, the TTK should be going up overall within certain engagement distances, and this should really improve many aspects of the gameplay and hopefully the gun balance. I mean, I think the gun balance for Battlefield 1 has been pretty whack for a long time. I think the medic class has had some of the best gun balance within its own class, but for other classes, there would just be clear choices in terms of what the best gun was to pick. I mean, assault, shotguns, and Automatico was like pretty much the obvious. If you're on console, maybe Hellriegel. And there wasn't a lot of other competing weapons out there. With the new weapon update, hopefully this should make that decision much more complicated and in a good way. Now you might have the decision between picking a good long range weapon or a good close range weapon or medium or hybrid or whatever within each class rather than just picking a different class depending on what engagement distance you wanted. So really, for me personally, I think one of the most exciting things about this next DLC is that it's coming with the weapons balance patch. This is going to refresh every aspect of Battlefield 1. Even if you're not a premium owner, you haven't bought any of the DLC, this is going to be a major change and a major update to your gameplay experience. I can't wait to get into the stats of the new weapons and how they all balance out. I'll probably have to do some update videos on what some of the best weapons are. A lot of the initial videos I did early on in Battlefield 1 still hold true for the most part. There haven't been too many things that have rocked the boat or upset the balance since then, but this next patch will change a lot of things. Now, as we look at this untextured version of Zeebrugge, which we will be getting sometime in January, I do wonder what the operations mode is going to play out like. I imagine we'll start on one end of the dock and have to work our way all the way down to the other end. Now that operations is only 64 players and we no longer have the 48 player game mode, that's going to be a lot of players to cram into a small area. It could end up being somewhat like Operation Metro or Operation Lockers with 64 players. We'll have to wait and see. A little bit of a concern, but I will be checking out the operations modes on the 2 textured maps, hopefully today, and we can see how those ones play out with 64 players. As some of the operations in their current state, especially like Argonne Forest, are just terrible on 64 player counts. So maybe DICE can figure out a way to expand the width of the map so that it's a little bit less clustered. Again, these are just sort of speculative concerns at this point as we haven't had enough time to test out the Zeebrugge raid map, but I'm excited to test it out nonetheless. So anyway, that wraps it up for this video. A lot of big changes coming to Battlefield 1 in the near future. What are you guys most excited for? The new DLC or the new weapons changes? You're going to get both of them either way. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.